Councillors. The first item on today's agenda is the election of chairman. Are there any nominations, please? Yes, I'd like to nominate Councillor Guzman. Any other nominations? All those in favour? That's carried. Do you want to put him? So,
Good afternoon, councillors. Thank you for appointing me as chairman of the licensing committee. The next item on the agenda is to appoint a vice chair. I'd like to propose Councillor Lena Havick as the vice chair. Is there any other nominees?
yes, Councillor Paul Gleeson.
That's I councillors.
Would you like to continue, Councillor Gleeson, or?
No, that's no, that's fine. Yeah. So
Can I have a show of hands if everybody's been happy with the appointing of vice chair? Harry? The next item in the minutes, we'll have the committee's permission to sign the minutes of the meeting held on the 12th of December 2023.
Agreed.
Yes.
Remember? Are there any apologies for absence?
Yes, Chairman, we've had apologies from Councillor Baxter.
Do any members wish to declare any interest in respect to today's agenda? And are there any questions from the members?
No questions received, Chairman.
Thank you. We will now move to item 1, the Hackney Carriage Private Hire Licensing Policy, which is on page 3 of the agenda pack. Anna, would you like to present?
Thank you, Chair. So referring this back following public consultation, the report provides information following that consultation on the proposed amendments to our taxi private hire licensing guidance and policy for your consideration. You are asked as a committee to consider the comments received during the consultation period, and it's recommended that you make any amendments and additions that you deem necessary to the policy prior to adoption being requested at full council. The reason for the recommendation is to ensure that any responses to the consultation are considered by the committee and integrated into the policy where appropriate, and to ensure that this policy is adopted by the council and published at a timely manner. So the Regulation Appeals Committee convened on the 12th of December last year to review the amendments and additions to the council policy. The committee made a number of recommendations in relation to the policy, and these have been added. These include an added paragraph to the penalty point scheme that provides a condition for licence holders to be able to familiarise themselves with the scheme, and that any points awarded during the first 6 months from adoption of this policy will have a maximum 12-month retention period on that person's records. Any points awarded after the end of those 6 months will be subject to the standard retention period of 36 months. The penalty point scheme has been sorted in order of the number of awardable points, so it's a little easier for the people in the trade to read and understand And a line was added above all of the points for all of the offences, 12 points, so that people are aware that if they receive 12 points, they will instantly be referred to a subcommittee of the regulatory appeals committee. Under the paragraph or under the section in the policy for enforcement, a paragraph was added to state that where we carry out some investigation and enforcement, it will all be carried out in line with the Council's corporate enforcement policy, which sets out how we will carry out our regulatory enforcement activities of individual businesses. Consultation commenced on the 3rd of January 2024 and closed on the 8th of February 2024. All members of the taxi code were consulted, along with other relevant stakeholders, elected members and the general public. So during the consultation period, 3 separate positions regarding the proposed policy were received. I've run down the phrase here of what that feedback was. I'll run through them and then if you're happy, we'll discuss them point by point once I've run through them. The first one was a general disagreement with the points scheme on the basis that people who decide on that scheme and the awarding of penalty points don't understand the job of a taxi driver or owner due to having not done the job themselves. They raised questions on how those officers are qualified to make those decisions, and also that situations may happen that sometimes mean that paperwork, which is PBS certificate, will late being delivered, and how can we justify issuing points for something out of the driver's control or that of the council control. There was a number of comments regarding the age, the vehicle age policy, in relation to others saying that vehicles which were registered before September 2015 will not be added as new vehicles. There was some comments on if a vehicle is older but meets those emission standards, they should be allowed to continue beyond the 3 additional years that the policy says. There was some concern that we've stated 3 additional licence renewals in the policy. There's some concern that you would move goalposts partway through the policy change and that wouldn't be followed through. There was a comment on brand new vehicles shouldn't need to be provided with an MOT test certificate until they're 6 months old. MOT advisory should be allowed to be fixed at approved garages. Not all MOT stations are VAT registered, and that refers to a point in our policy where we say that repairs should be carried out by a VAT registered garage, which we'll discuss shortly. There was a call to change the address on point number 1 on the penalty point scheme. They currently have 7 days to notify us of the change of address, so the request was to make that 21 days. There's a number of other issues that people raised with the penalty point scheme, saying that 4 points for not displaying the driver's badge is very high, particularly if the lanyard is only broken. 72 hours to notify of an accident is short notice. What constitutes an unsatisfactory appearance of the driver? The 5-year ban for using a mobile phone whilst driving is deemed too severe, and it should be in line with the DVLA requirements, or perhaps a totting up system. And again, I'll address that a little later on. People feel that the point system can be a bit harsh in the fact that we will be, or we propose to issue penalty points for not having a fire extinguisher in a licensed vehicle, and that the operator would be given those points as well as the driver, when the operator may not have any control or may not be aware that that has been removed from the vehicle. There are a number of considerations to those points that I would like to run through with you and for you to have regard to in making your decisions. The first one is the 72 hours for notification of an accident. This is set in legislation. It's not something that is discretionary for the council to make a determination on. So I would recommend that that stays as is It's prescribed in section 50 of the Local Government Miscellaneous Provisions Act, and it should say as it is. The mobile phone conviction was brought in following the Department of Transport statutory taxing private hire standards, based on recommendations for local authorities in our consideration of previous convictions. The standards state that where a time period is given for a conviction to be considered as relevant, it should be taken to be a minimum period in considering whether a licence should be granted or renewed. In relation to offences of using handheld devices while driving, the minimum period recommended is 5 years since conviction or completion of the sentence. And on that basis, I would not recommend altering that part of the policy. In relation to the vehicle age policy, I've discussed this with the Environmental Health Department, who were the ones who were the driving force behind requesting a vehicle age or emissions policy. Their advice has been that if a licensed car holder can evidence that their car is Euro 6 compliant, even if it was registered before 2015, consideration could be given to permitting renewal beyond those proposed 3 years. And I have come up with some draft wording for that part of the policy, which I can run through shortly. You, as a committee, are asked to consider comments from the open consultation and discuss the options available to you before determining if any changes are necessary before this policy is referred to the Full Council. The policy sets out a clear and concise framework to aid the Council in carrying out its statutory duties with the licensing authority in our determination of applications and regulation of licensing regime for taxi. It includes clear information for applicants and licensees on how to obtain and comply with licenses, as well as a range of robust measures to protect taxi and private hire vehicle passengers. Government advises that licensing authorities must work to ensure that above all else, the taxi and private hire vehicle services that the public use are safe. That concludes my report, Chairman, and I'm happy to discuss any of the points that anybody wishes to discuss. Advise you about my ability.
Thank you very much. I'll now open the table for the members to ask any questions and comments. Any questions?
Thank you. I apologise first of all for I'm a bit late. I'm not very struggling. I noticed actually about the fire extinguisher, doesn't it seem about being in date? Because obviously you have a fire extinguisher in a vehicle, it's 2 years out of date. It's having no fire extinguisher. I didn't spot that. Can you find it for me? Does it say anything about the date of the fire extinguisher?
Since this report was finalised, so spoken to colleagues and the local authorities, and some of them have been received some legal advice about carrying fire extinguishers in licensed vehicles. It's in our penalty point scheme that if they don't have a fire extinguisher, they should receive penalty points. There's nothing from a licensing regime that gives a date for expiry. That would probably be something that would come under health and safety legislation or fire safety legislation. But the proposal or the advice given by this barrister was that the latest step of the best practice advises that if we're to require them to carry fire extinguishers, the council should be making sure that they are suitably trained to use that fire extinguisher. A lot of local authorities' initial action was we'll remove the requirement to carry a fire extinguisher. However, that is set in bylaws, and changing bylaws has to go through the state. This solicitor recommended that rather than remove it from your bylaws, we just don't heavy-handed enforce against it. So entirely up to you as a committee whether we'll remove that from the penalty point scheme or leave it in there.
But this isn't our past big huge now.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wood. My view on this point, if I'm honest, is, well, yeah, I don't think we should be enforcing it. I think it should be our best practice. Any professional vehicle should carry a fire extinguisher, mainly because it might not be that person that it's ultimately if there's an accident. I know from my professional duty, I will look at any of the professional vehicles around my area to see what such as fire extinguishers, fire ways happening on the same. So the way I do a fire extinguisher in the vehicle is not necessarily for that fire extinguishers, albeit if they are trying to use it, brilliant, but it aims to an issue that they might be able to. So whilst I don't think that I should be points against it, I think that's a reason.
Thank you, Chair. I've got another one.
This
Multiple
one.
choice. Yeah, I think. I don't think we should have independent points.
Apologies, councillor, can you please use it because it calls it.
Oh, no, we're not. Yeah. If we're not going to enforce it, it should be independent scheme. We can't take out the bylaws because it's there. So yeah, the bylaws require it, but I think we should just take it out.
That's all good. Sorry.
Thanks, John. I think that's what happened in my mind. That's because that really is the fire and can't get out of it. I think probably when the fire out, I was going to be dangerous anyway. I suppose if the fire will start, use every other car, well away from the car. There's a probably risk with using the fire extinguisher on the car. Actually, the person is after all, there's a physical car. Bomb basic, isn't it? So we might spraying the engine and all that stuff. So I think probably something to some extent, fire extinguishers and fire probably has to use. I'll go with the comments made by my colleague.
Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Chairman. Just generally about the points scheme, when we discussed it at whatever meeting it was a complete and utter mess. Great idea, but complete and utter mess. It now looks so much better. That I think is a real step forward.
I'm happy to thank the committee for your comments on that one. It was right, it was a lot better. Could I just stress a couple of the issues or a couple of the points raised in the consultation? It's more really a reassurance for the trade, actually, that something like 4 points for not displaying your badge if your lanyard's broken, not notifying us of an accident if the driver's in hospital. We would look at all of these on a case-by-case system. If somebody is fine and they've popped into a shop and they've lost their badge or they've been in an accident, they can't notify us of that because they're injured. We would use the discretion to make sure that any points awarded were appropriate and not heavy-handed. The change of address to move to 21 days, I'm quite happy for that. A number of people, prior to this, or whilst this was out for consultation, I met with Boston Carriage Association and presented this to them so they could ask me any questions, a bit of a myth-busting exercise, really. And they quite rightly said, when you move your address, during the first week of moving the house, changing your address on your tax terms and licensing your address to change isn't top of your list of priorities. So I'm happy for that to move to 21, if you are. And then with the people age policy, I'll just refer you to page 25 of the report, and it's point 4.2.2. Having spoke to Mr. Davis, who's the Principal Environmental Health Officer, and he's the environmental health officer that is primarily, he's the expert on the emissions, air quality monitoring, so he's always at the point of call for anything like that. Spoke to him about this, and we kind of just considered rewording that 4.2.2 first paragraph to read, the council will not licence a new petrol or diesel powered vehicle that was registered prior to September 2015 unless that vehicle meets Euro 6 emission standards. Vehicles already licensed to the date of this policy, which do not meet the standards, will only be relicensed for a maximum of 3 additional years. I had a look through the details of the taxi fleet, and it looks to me like it's mainly petrol vehicles that are going to meet that Euro 6 standard before 2015. It was actually I checked sort of 50% of the fleet that were older than September 2015, and those that were diesel didn't meet Euro 6 standards. So I don't think it will have a huge impact on the taxi fleet, but if people have got petrol ones, it will make a difference. So on that basis, I don't think there's any detrimental effect to what the policy is aiming to achieve by changing that paragraph and that wording. Ultimately, it's your decision, but that's just something for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Councillor Please.
More of just going through the points. The point 1, I don't think there's any great relevance. Point 2, we've dealt with. Point 3, at the moment, a brand new vehicle will need an MOT vehicle. I think that feels slightly safer.
Would you like to give your background?
No, I just think we're protecting ourselves and the people driving the taxis. It might. I don't think that's relevant. Point 4. We want them in back register.
The point that was raised at that meeting we had with Hackney Carriage Association is that not all garages are VAT registered. Some of them fall that they don't register VAT. If we're going to take note of this condition, we would probably look at rewording that part of the policy. Yeah, so if you look at page 27, 4.8.2, that is the policy point that they're referring to. And the line, that's the one line says they must be rectified by a VAT registered garage. It may be for your consideration in changing, possible to change that wording so that they must be rectified by a bona fide mechanical engineer or mechanics garage. It's a company with the appropriate wording on the basis that I am told by the trade that a lot of garages aren't registered for VAT.
My understanding is the Chancellor last week actually hiked quite a lot the level of trade you need to do. So I think that you might have maybe even fewer garages. So that might be something we need to look at. The 21-day thing we dealt with the penalty group, and I think that's the rule we live with. And then again, the 7 we dealt with, and that's where, again, sorry, that's what it is. So I'm happy with what we've heard so far. Those alterations be made, and then everything else stays the same.
Thank you, Councillor Gleeson. Sort of echo saying that VAT, that has crossed my mind, obviously, with that moving up. I would probably suggest something along the lines of an approved mechanical garage or an approved, a place as opposed to my concern out of it is I don't want roadside repairs. I'm sure that not be the case, but you know, it's about accountability of repair. That's what we're looking at.
Would you happy if I change that to being rectified by a service and repair garage, the vehicle service and repair garage?
I'll do that again more acceptable.
Yeah.
Problem with an MOT goes is there are some garages that only solely do MOTs.
Established.
Established workshop. Yeah, some sort of workshop, accredited workshop.
Which by who the planning council, that, which, with you, then we're giving ourselves a job, you know.
That's accredited.
I mean, because we used to have our own garage once, we used to have our own workshop, yeah, much better.
I think be quite well if it's a notice will specify the maximum period of time in which those defects must be registered by a vehicle service and repair team.
Yeah.
You're happy with that?
That's okay.
Thank you, Chair. There are a number of taxi drivers who at English skills may not be up to par with reading such stuff. Is it the council will provide translation? Will that be down to the taxi operator?
Anybody who applies to become a taxi driver, they have to pass a comprehension test. They have to demonstrate to us that they have a significant understanding of the English language, or they'll even get through the first stage of the application process. We don't provide translation services for them. When we go to carry the financial burden of doing so, it's very expensive. Which anybody who's questioning it, they should have gone through that first round of staff contact to make sure they can speak English, read English, and write English. So we're always on hand to explain points that anybody with try to keep the policy text as simple as possibly can. We're not using too much confusing language in there. But yeah, we're always available to help.
Very much. Any further questions? So, with obviously what we've discussed with around VAT garages amendments, we changed to 21 days the address and the removal of directed points. I'll recommend you on to page 3 of the agenda on members in our content report. We approved for consideration by full council with the additional content.
You just second the service.
That concludes our business for today. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.